Welcome back to another Wright Stew podcast. I'm Paul Stewart.
And I am Brian Wright still, and we're in Speaker Studio, so I'm pretty stoked.
So we're back. We're getting another long form. And today we're going to talk about transitions.
And not the ones that you maybe have went through there, but transitioning from high school to college or from high school, in Paul's case, to pro baseball. And just some of the things that were maybe not surprising, but didn't necessarily was talked about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because you just, hey, you're excited to go make this transition to this next level, but you're not really know everything that comes along. You know you're going to be playing with better players. In your case, you're getting paid, but you don't necessarily know, hey, you take showers and open showers, right?
Yeah.
So
let's jump in right there. So a lot of different things. You play baseball from the time you're 5-6 years old. T-ball, it's a ball game. It's a team game, and you finish your ball game. And for most of us, I think we hop in our car. Our parents drive us home, and you go home and shower. In pro ball, you've got to shower with everybody else. Yeah. And in college, I think you did as well, right, at NC State?
Yeah, very much so. You had early morning, so 5:30 or 6 o'clock workouts. I lived with a guy that probably, I think he's a very successful guy now, but at the time he was not really committed to baseball. So you're getting up and doing 5:30 workouts. You don't really know any, or at least in my case, I didn't really know anybody at NC State. I live in a dorm that you're not really supposed to drive down because we're going to work out. It's probably half a mile down to where we go work out. That's where our locker room is. We shared a locker room with, not actual room, but a kind of an area, a greater area with the NC State basketball team.
Okay.
So you're getting up super early. You're going to work out. Then you go in there to shower. Your first time, everybody strips down. And you're like, when you're first in there, dude, it's kind of like, this is a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
Your eyes glance down. You're like, oh, am I supposed to see that? You blind. You're like trying to squint because you really don't want to see everybody's stuff, but it's like you're going to see it, right? You can't help but like evaluate, hey, where am I at on this scale?
Yeah,
right?
You can't help but see what's going on. And sometimes it's just, you're pretty impressed. It's impressive.
Yeah.
So I remember, same thing for me, so coming from high school.
Yeah.
We didn't even have locker room facilities to do that. So
no, we didn't either.
My first stadium I ever played at was kind of a wonky situation.
I got a question. So Paul, you get drafted, you go to short season? Is that what you do?
So short season A, or it wasn't quite rookie ball. So the Brewers had 2 teams in the Pioneer League.
Okay.
Which I think was considered short season A, not necessarily rookie ball. So they didn't have like a Fire League team. They didn't have a team in Arizona. Most teams will have a team at the lowest level will be either in Phoenix or in Florida at the spring training facility. But they just had 2 short season. So I was super young for that.
Yeah.
I was like,
you're playing with 22-year-olds.
I was playing with college seniors, and I was 17. I was really young, and that was a little more advanced league. And that first year, a lot of things. But so our stadium that first year they were building a new stadium in Ogden, Utah.
Okay.
But the first year we were playing like at a Legion field.
Oh.
And
so you probably felt at home in that.
Well, yeah, it was kind of a janky field, but it was makeshift lockers.
Okay.
So we had 2 trailers were our lockers. So it wasn't like
like you took a big step up.
Yeah, we had like individual stall. Like I was like, this is pro ball. This is
right. This feels worse.
This is Gosh, what are we doing? But then the next year they had like a proper, beautiful, amazing Lindquist Field, beautiful stadium. I actually got to throw the first pitch at that stadium. Here you go. First batter ever in Lindquist Field. Official. I'm sure they kind of screwed around and played on the mound. So Jake Thrower was the guy for the Idaho Falls Padres. So anyway, good ball player. I think he got to double AAA for a little bit. I'm throwing the first pitch in the whole stadium.
Right.
2-0, get back to 2-2, full count. Man, I'm gonna throw it by this guy. I'm gonna strike out the first guy.
Yeah.
Fastball.
Home run. So you gave up the first home run in that
First batter ever.
Not first. You probably got first strikeout too, but you got.
I got probably the first everything was me, and it was the weirdest. As he's trotting around, like the crowd didn't know whether to clap
or to, because obviously,
it was just like they wanted that strike. They were on their feet. It's one of the few times I can remember like
yeah,
kind of what was going on around. And maybe that's why I lost a little focus. But my 89 mile an hour heater wasn't sneaking by old Jake
And
Thrower.
especially at that level, and we'll transition back, but especially at that level, you expect fastball 3-2. right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that was kind of one of the things that was different about pro baseball than even college baseball is, expecting, especially at least in that time, was, hey, guys are not wanting to walk guys. Right now, it feels
Yeah.
like you got it's a 50-50 chance,
It's just slider, sweeper,
yeah,
whatever it is now.
sweeper. So yeah, I remember going down. So we work out, we run, and do all our stuff. Come back in, drop it, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna put the towel on. I'm going in here. I'm a big boy. You're feeling like weird.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have NC State basketball players walking there.
Oh, jeez.
And you're like, oh, gosh. And obviously these guys, 6'8", 6'10".
Yeah, at minimum like 6'5".
Yeah, and feet and wings, it's all the same. I mean, it does match up. And it was, dude, and I was just like blown away. And then eventually you're like, yeah, you're kind of in the corner. You're like, yeah, I'm going to shower. You take your towel in there with you because we had to walk out of our little room that we're in and into the showers where, everybody kind of met. And so you're in the corner, you kind of shower real fast. But, dude, pretty quick in, you're like, dude, this is what I got. Who cares? Yeah. And it's like, sling it around.
You do think about things like that, but nobody cares. Once you get in the locker room, nobody's making fun of anybody for anything.
Oh, they're making fun of everybody for everything, I think, Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not for ding size. Yeah. but they're making fun of everybody for everything.
Yeah.
Like, you can have, like, I don't know, like, you don't trim it well enough or whatever at the time. It's at least when I came through. And so the other thing that jumped out, like, I'm from a small town. I didn't, I would hang out with friends on weekends. We'd go do that stuff. But as far as transitioning to like college baseball was, I never went out during the week, and then I'm going to college baseball and I'm not going to go out, and I'm not really hanging out. I'm playing fall ball, having a lot of success and doing some of those things there. Guy who became a really good friend of mine, Louis Figueroa, Guatemalan, very successful guy now, but he called me little bitch. Like my nickname to him, because I wasn't going out.
You weren't a partier?
Yeah, I was not partying, right? And so I was not hanging out, and that was kind of on me, but kind of just, hey, I want to establish myself before I go in and establish that part of myself. So for like the first semester, that was kind of my nickname, little bitch. And so
it's not a great one.
Not a great one, but it felt like it was a term of endearment. Right?
Well,
I mean, it doesn't on the surface.
They don't give nicknames to the kids who aren't going to play.
That's right. On the surface, it doesn't feel like that. But
you come home from Christmas your first semester. Hey,
how is it?
Hey, Brian, Mom and Dad, how are you doing? What are they? You got a nickname?
It's not B. Wright. It's little bitch.
They call me LB. Yeah.
But
little Brian.
Yeah, little Brian. But no, it was that. So showers and just the lifestyle that. It's no longer you're under your parents. And even more so now, guys are much older, and that the age difference is pretty significant. We talk about 23, 24, and 18, but even then it felt significant because these were grown men, right? And you're kind of very much a high school kid and trying to make
I would say they're young men, right? They're 22.
Well, maybe not fully developed frontal lobe, but
yeah. So that was definitely different. One of the other things, too, that was really strange for me coming from everybody in high school was coach.
Yeah.
Coach. And then you get to pro ball, and I remember the first couple of days, I didn't know who the coaches. Like, I knew there were some older guys around, but when the other pitchers would talk to me, they go, hey, so my first pitching coach was a guy named Steve Klein. Great pitching coach, really good dude. Really smart. Pitched at Clemson for several years, pitched in pro ball. But they would say, hey, Steve said this, or Steve said that, or our manager's name was Bernie. Bernie said this, Bernie said that. I was like, is Bernie and Steve, are those teammates? Who are these guys? Because I was so used to like
coach something,
coach, or whatever it is, and it took me a few days to figure out like,
oh, Steve is my pitching coach.
Steve's the guy that I threw the bullpen for when I first got here, that sort of thing.
And I was calling him coach. Yeah,
I don't know what I called him. Honestly, that's probably
so. You went to first names immediately. That was a weird thing. Even now, though, you know what's different? Even now with like kids, like whenever I introduce myself, even coaching now, it's Coach Brian, right? And I think baseball kind of has that more laid back, and even in college, it was Coach Avent, but it was to a lot of the assistants and stuff. It was first name. Yeah. It was first name, and that was a bit different. And I felt like baseball is one of those sports that they treat you, at least historically, they treat you like a young man. So you're expected to make your own decisions. Like football, even in pro football, the day before you go play, you go stay in a hotel, right? And in college football, it's very much. they're very much tied to, hey, we're going to make sure you don't do anything
So
stupid.
did you see that in baseball? Was there more like room checks and things like that on the road, or?
I mean, there were some, and again, right, wrong, any different. I felt like it was if you were playing well and you weren't getting in trouble. Now there were guys who got in trouble, guys who got caught, and those sort of things. And a lot of times there was guys trying to do things whenever we weren't playing well. But if you were doing the right things,
It's funny
you
how that
kinda-
works, right? If you're playing great, hey, just roll with it.
yeah,
If you're not playing well, in the rooms by 11 o'clock.
oh yeah, and room check and so there were definitely some of that. Pro baseball, none of that.
No,
Pro baseball,
no.
I'm sure when you went out the first time on the road, not that you're a party,
No, I was
but you never,
never a partier, never like I don't drink at all now, so it was never
right.
really an issue. Like my focus was always like I want to do well, but then sometimes your roommate kind of changes your sleeping patterns as well, which was another thing as you transition to pro baseball or in college. Like you've got to kind of feel out. It's almost like dating. You're trying to find roommates who kind of go to bed at the same time. I've always been an early riser, like somebody who gets up. And in pro ball, early riser is like 9 o'clock.
That is early.
Like
Because pro ball, most guys are 10 or 11.
Or like 11. Like you're waking up basically,
eating food, going right
wake
to the
up,
field.
go to lunch, go back to the hotel, watch Sports Center for a minute, and then head to the field. That's pretty
right.
much the routine. I was up at like 9:30, like so. And not to do it, like maybe go to the gym or whatever, but I wasn't like a. So again, going into pro ball, that was a big transition. And I remember I stayed with one of my roommates for a couple trips. A guy named John O'Reilly, pitched at Old Dominion, good ball player. I think got the low A, high A. But he loved staying up at night and just watching movies and loved like the action. So I was over there trying to sleep and
You got
I hear like
guns going
gunfire
off?
and ambulance and all that. I'm like, oh, I got a pitch tomorrow. I can't.
Ugh.
And he had it turned up like kind of loud.
So you didn't have your own room?
No, gosh, no, not in pro ball. No.
Oh yeah, we did. Even in pro ball, we had. Now I stay with host parents, but we
No,
had
on the
our own
road.
room.
On the road, you had your own rooms.
Road, no.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
no.
Like on the road.
On the road,
So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So that's a little different as well. So
We did not, and so early on you got to sign. But see, we were already living with guys, like we're staying in dorms, right? And so we're sharing a room that's about the size of Speaker Studio. And my roommate, again, successful guy now, but wasn't really into baseball. And so it was just, I had trouble, dude. Even now, dude, I need it completely dark in the room. No noise. I need a fan, some type of black noise or white noise. And I need it completely blacked out. I don't like even the lights on the TV.
so we wouldn't be, we wouldn't be good roommates.
So you like you
I
like,
fall asleep literally to either the Office or Parks and Rec every day.
So yeah, I need complete silence, right? And I need complete dark. I think you got like really thick eyelids. Like I can't turn off my brain if I'm.
That's why I listen. That's why I put those shows on because I've literally seen them 40, 50 times, and so I understand the cadence, the rhythm, and so it helps me turn my brain off. Because if I don't have anything on, then I'm thinking about whatever happened that day, what happens the next day.
Were you ever late to anything?
Never. Never. Yeah.
So one time I was late to a workout. That's the worst feeling. So early morning, 6 o'clock workout.
I don't know how people do that. Like it gives me. I'm not like a high stress, high anxiety person, but like
being on time, and I actually am too.
And on time is for me is at minimum 5 minutes early.
Yeah, and even then it was 15, right? We had to get down there. Typically get down there at 5:30, 5:45. You change clothes and then you all go out together like at 5 till 6, and we go out where the softball field at NC State was where the track used to be, and you go down there and run. And one time, dude, you wake up and it's like 6:02.
And it was a little tougher back then too because you didn't have your cell phone at all times, which was your
you had an alarm clock.
You had like a legit alarm clock.
Yeah,
and I remember I would have. On the road, I would set an alarm clock. You could call the hotel and get a wake-up call.
That's right. But I would imagine you didn't have to ever get up that early, did you? I mean, were there
no,
ever
I mean,
times?
we had a few of those, like, 10 a.m. games during the season. We had weights, but weights were always, bus was at 9:30 or 10. It wasn't like a super early. No, so in pro ball, you don't have the same sort of regimen.
Yeah, you're not getting up at 6 and going to work out.
No, nothing like that. I hear my daughters, who are in college now playing. They're like, yeah, 5:30 lift, and they'll send videos of them lifting. And it's like, I love it. I think it's great. I love seeing them do that. But
I don't know. I mean, we did it. So I was late one time, and so during my punishment for being late. So you do the whole workout. I think I got down there, and they were really close to, being done, or maybe not being done, but at least halfway through. I'd jump right in, finish it, and then I had to roll like 100 yards. So you roll on your side. It was our football, what's our trainer. So you literally roll 10 yards, and then you get up, and I think maybe you do burpees, like 10 burpees. Roll 10 yards, get up. Essentially trying to make you throw up.
Yeah.
And so you throw up, you keep going a little bit more after that, and then you go up and shower, apologize, talk to coach, and never happen again, and embarrassed, and a whole
You'd have been better off just not showing up. Like
I don't think so.
Diarrhea or something.
No, even then, dude, the expectation was, and I think even now, hey, show up, right? And even if you've screwed up.
I think now you have much more ability to communicate.
Yes, there was none then.
Yeah, there was none back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
So that was a transition, getting up that early and working out. Because, dude, I'm a eat breakfast as soon as I get up guy, not a go and do stuff and then eat breakfast. So that was a big transition. And then obviously class, right? So you get up there. So you go down and get to the workout area. You really aren't supposed to park there, right? We have no parking pass waiting list.
So
it's like
for
a
folks
4
who've
year.
never been to NC State, parking is pretty limited. My wife went there, and I remember going to visit her on campus. And
did you get tickets?
A lot of tickets. Yeah, a lot of tickets.
I did too.
But so freshmen weren't allowed to bring cars on campus.
No, but I did.
And I think that's a lot of college campuses. They had very limited. So go ahead. Sorry.
No. And so you brought it because you had to bring it. And but there was really no parking pass. So you're taking risk every day. So you drive down there. And a lot of times you're taking, you think you found a spot where you're hiding from the parking guy for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're not really hiding. And then you go hide it somewhere else. And then at the end of the year, you end up with $500-$700 worth of parking tickets at least. Crazy. And then, so you get down there. And then even to practice, right? Our practice at the time wasn't right next to our locker rooms. So you go to your locker room, change. You're hopping your car and you go park over here. And you were good to park by the stadium for like 3 hours. But if y'all had a late practice, I don't think it was a transition, man. That for us was, and I know there are 20-hour rules in place, and I'm not saying we broke any of those rules, but, we would have practices sometimes that were 3, 4, 4.5 hours.
What are you guys doing the whole time?
I'm not sure, dude. So you have your one skill, like we kind of run our one practice. That one skill may not go well. And then you have maybe that day is a day to scrimmage or a certain amount of pitchers or throwing, and then you have pitchers who get long. Dude, it turned into.
I can't imagine what you do. Like we have practices, and I don't want to be there for 4 hours. I couldn't plan.
No, you can't plan that. I think they've gotten better, and I think people have realized that, hey, about an hour 45, even, and again, if you're playing games, it's different. If you're in a squad and there's something that's different. But I can remember having some really long practice, and maybe you're doing 2 or 3 skill stuff. You're doing like bunt defense, and again, we were a successful high school program, won some state championships, and very competitive. But like all the detail that goes into, hey, your wheel plays, your bump plays, this situation, fly ball communication, this situation. So there's a lot to work on. And if we'd gotten rained out a day or something to where we had lost the day, it wasn't erasing that stuff. We were getting it in the next day, and it was just kind of all piling on. So that skill, it turned into some long days.
That's interesting because in high school, we had practices. We were never super overbearing or anything. It was pretty standard BP infield, some fundamental stuff. But then you get to pro ball. You kind of you don't call it practice, but you practice every day.
It's like pregame.
It's your pregame. Yeah. So essentially, you get to the yard at 2, 3 o'clock, whatever it is. Go out. Pitchers would kind of do their own thing. They would throw, get their bullpens in. You would have batting practice.
Did you already have your routine? You feel like a guy that you, even at 17, probably were.
It took a little bit because then once in high school, you're pitching, you essentially play 2 or 3 games a week.
Yeah.
And I would always pitch against the better of the 2 scheduled games that week. And then pro ball, though, you turn into a 5-man rotation. So it took me a year and a half, probably after the first year, to kind of develop what it looked like.
Right.
Start day 1, what I do, day 2, day 3, day 4, then back to the start day. So it took not too terribly long because you're starting to get to a routine, a rhythm, that sort of thing. But so you're practicing essentially every day.
That's right.
And that's where we've talked about the grind and the monotony of baseball.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where some of that comes in. And then as a pitcher, you're catching balls at first base for shortstops,
and you're probably doing your running once you get into the season, right?
Unlike
some of the things I've seen now, they're not really running. Is somehow it's become debatable whether that's the thing to do.
I'm 100% against in the other camp. I think running, especially for a starting pitcher, endurance, building arm or leg strength, and creating a good base is critical. So
Yeah.
I'll always preach on behalf. I was never injured as a player, always healthy. Stuck to my regiment pretty tightly and stayed healthy. But
How about food, dude? What'd you do food wise?
dude, I was like a scavenger.
Were you?
An absolute
Because
scavenger.
you're making that big 850. Now you were you were a high school kid, so you had some sign up bonus.
Yeah, I got it. So I had a nice sign, but I didn't conception. I didn't understand that.
Right.
I didn't understand that I had.
But so you're getting your 850 a month or whatever. That's
So
what it was.
so
then,
to
right?
Brian's point, so every player when they're drafted, I would say every 99.999% of players sign what they call a standard 6-year agreement. So you are under the
Out of high
obligation.
school 6, out of college is 5.
Okay, so you have the obligation or the rights to play for whoever team drafted. So the Brewers drafted me, and every player when they get drafted at the time. So 1996, your first year in rookie ball, you got paid $850 a month.
Yeah.
Your second year, $950. Your first year in low A was like $1,000.
Yeah,
then maybe
1,050.
1,100.
Yeah.
And then double A was maybe 1,800. Triple A was
I think you're a little high on that.
2,200. I found one of my old contracts.
You probably were getting more than some of the.
Well, no, it laid it all out. So every Brewer was
the same.
the exact same. And I remember one of my buddies, Jose Garcia. He was the second rounder my year. One year he came into camp and he didn't. So you would sign your contract in the off season,
right?
And you would mail it in. Get there. He didn't sign his contract. He wanted like $50 extra. And so he held out for like $50, and eventually I think they gave it to him. And it was amazing.
And you're paying union dues, or at least
so there was no union for the minor leagues.
So I thought you were still paying dues out of that. No.
So you're paying clubhouse dues.
Okay.
To So you go back. So your original question was food.
Yes.
So there was supposed to be a pregame spread that, and I think the Brewers or teams were obligated to pay you some money or give the clubhouse attendant some money for that. That's another thing. The clubhouse attendant that can dictate how great your season is as well. So you're supposed to get food before the game. So that's typically peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, which I'm great with.
Some deli slices, some fruit. Yeah, and most guys you don't want a big meal before you eat a game. And then post game, that's where it gets really dicey.
Yeah.
I told you my first year, we had literally 2 trailers. There was no room for food in there. Where are you going to put the food at? Like
right.
It's literally a single wide trailer with chairs all around it. Naked dudes walking around. You don't want to eat in there.
Not ideal.
So again, I didn't have a vehicle. I'm out in Utah.
So you had no vehicle?
No, where am I going to get a vehicle from?
I mean,
I had
you
a
drive
host.
in high school?
I had a host family. They didn't give me a car.
No. I'm saying you just signed. You didn't have a vehicle?
No, I had a car, but it was in North Carolina.
So y'all did not ship it?
No.
So we shipped immediately with ours, or drove. I think we drove to our location.
No, I took flights out there. Well, so the way they presented it was, hey, you're going to have a host family. They're going to take care of you. In Ogden this year, if you hosted a player, you got free tickets for your family to all the games.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure my family was in it for the tickets.
Yeah.
They were sweet people, but the room they gave me was like a 8x8, maybe 9x9, just filled with kind of their old junk. They had a filing cabinet that was like my dresser. Hey, you can put your stuff in there. I was like, oh, the filing cabinet with your taxes and other legal forms. Great, thank you. The closet was filled with all their old stuff, and I get it. Like they had 3 kids.
Yeah,
they just needed room to put stuff.
Right.
I would have done the same thing if it was my house, but
you probably wouldn't have hosted
I wouldn't have hosted a player. Yeah. So they didn't have a car for me.
So
they didn't give me a ride to the park every day. A couple times. So that's why I pick up the phone. Hey Flacco, can you come grab me today? Oh yeah, because Flacco had a car, right? He lived down the street. So Flacco was Alfredo Gutierrez. Alfredo Gutierrez.
He was
Flacco means skinny in Spanish, so that was his nickname. They call him Flacco. And then you kind of learn who lives close.
Did you ever consider, hey, Mom, Dad, I could actually use my car out here?
Well, I was there, so I signed in. My first game was on July 1st, so I was going to be there July, August, and then back home, right? So and then you would have to drive all the way home. I don't think my parents were probably thrilled about me driving cross country.
So they needed to transition to you being responsible enough. I imagine your second year.
The way they kind of sold it, not sold it, but told us what was going on.
You didn't feel like you needed one.
Yeah, that was my understanding. And then, dude, so that host family never had food in the house. Like, they had a lot of milk. Always had like 8 gallons of milk. I don't,
It fills
and
the stomach.
I don't like milk.
It does fill the stomach though.
And yeah, I guess, but so I'm in there just like looking for, and I felt weird.
It's somebody else's house.
Yeah, and again, I was 17.
You were so young. Yeah.
I didn't know. And the other thing, they had this little dog,
Oh yeah.
and I don't really like dogs. I know it's not a great take, but I don't.
Right. You
And
have a dog. Yeah,
it had
named
some sort of like
Chip.
surgery or something on its.
Oh.
It said like pus and everything.
So terrible.
And I didn't like that dog. And it was, man, and looking back, I should have just told the GM of the, he was like, hey, I'm allergic to dogs. I can't stay here. Or I should have said like, hey, but I was, again, I didn't know. Like I was just, and I was always kind of like, maybe too respectful for the
Right. You were just getting along. Let's keep.
I was, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But I mean, it taught me something, right? It taught me a lot of things, how to figure some things out. But
Well, definitely call Flacco.
yeah, I call Flacco Alpha. Yeah, I love Flacco. But so food that year, I wouldn't eat a lot, and then I would we would do BP and do all that, and then the concession stand would open, and so you would have the ability to go eat something from the concession stand because our spread was like PB and J.
Yeah,
but I needed more, so I remember they had these big giant hot dogs.
Yeah,
they had like chili cheese dogs.
Yeah,
and I would buy 2 of those, and they sold orange juice.
Okay,
which I thought was weird, but
but you bought it.
Probably for a month straight, I would eat like 2 chili cheese dogs.
Yeah,
and a
big
cup of orange juice.
I do think it takes
that was my pregame meal. Yeah,
I think it takes a special maturity level to go from high school to professional baseball, because there are things in most cases, you never really had to face some of those just general life.
No, you grew up quick.
Grow up really fast to where college, man, you go down, you got your cafeteria that is better than, at least ours was.
It's
better.
A restaurant.
Yeah, it's a restaurant. They're cooking good food. You've got a little bit of money, and you've got all the restaurants available. It's a nice transition. I saw high school kids when I was in pro baseball that were talented enough to probably advance and have really good careers, but didn't have the mental maturity yet to handle some of those choices that were available to them. Yeah. And it is tough. How about, Paul, whenever you look at like the level of competition, right? Did that surprise you, not surprise you, or was it like, all right, I belong here? Was there any expectation when you came in?
The first year, I think I was just so young and naive. I thought I would come in just throwing my 89, 90 mile an hour fastball by everybody. Yeah. It was an average professional fastball at the time. Yeah, shake a tree and 20 guys like me fall out, right? Obviously, I never really had to pitch in high school.
Right.
And the first year, my numbers weren't great. I had a couple of games where I was really successful and a couple when I was
Did you have bad expectations going in, or were you just completely just like, we'll see what happens? Or were there
and I was never outwardly brash, but in my mind, I think you have to have that level of confidence. Like
hey, I'm gonna do this.
I'm gonna dominate this game. I'm gonna go out there and kill it. And then you get out there and you're like, oh, I'm not killing it. And these guys are good. But again, you're playing against guys who are four-year college players, guys
Dominicans that have been in
American.
The league, or foreign Latin players that have been in the league for a minute.
That's another thing that was a big moving into pro ball was a huge transition. Like growing up, you knew guys were Spanish speaking. Yeah, you remember seeing all these guys growing up and playing, but you don't really understand how big a part of that is culture. In the baseball culture. So you start seeing that and understanding, and some of those, man, can you imagine the transition? So for like a Dominican guy who probably not very formally educated coming to the state, so it was tough for me, as a high school graduate,
right,
with a decent head on my shoulders. Going from Garner, North Carolina to Ogden, Utah. Can you imagine a young kid from the Dominican who's 17 or 18?
Who's lying about his age, who's really 23?
Oh, maybe, right? But who might have literally...
No kid. But we did have that one.
But who literally might have grown up with dirt floors.
Oh, for sure.
And a piece of cardboard as his first glove.
I bet he was stoked about his host parents.
Dude. So that was one thing I learned too. Like, so some Spanish words, and you always learn the curse words first. So that's right. Fun. And again, as we know, I took Latin in high school, so I learned a lot of Spanish along the way. But
you had your base.
Yeah, but for Dominican guys, one of the things I learned about those guys were the majority of Dominican boys, their number one dream in life is to play in the big leagues.
For sure.
Love baseball so much. Their number two dream in life is to live in New York City. And then their number three dream is just to live in the States.
Okay.
Because it's provides
opportunity.
So much more opportunity. So Spanish culture was really big, and it was kind of fun. And all the Dominican, Venezuelan, Puerto Rican guys always
a lot of naked dancing.
Dancing for sure. Probably some naked dancing.
I remember that pro baseball. That was.
We had as we progressed. Again, my first year was so funky because of those weird locker rooms. Because like half the team was in one trailer, the other half.
Right.
But as you get in a normal locker, it was much better. Yeah, but a little bit of naked dancing going on.
Which nothing wrong with that.
That's good time. What about you going in? Did you take Spanish in college? Were you like, I'm gonna?
Well, I did take Spanish in college, but actually I had to drop it a couple of times. I didn't actually do it till I was done playing and get through the classes. It was actually a real Spanish class where they want you to speak. It wasn't just like, you get me to conjugating verbs, and it's like I can barely do that in English, and so it's. So I got through it. I honestly became a much better student once I was done playing. And hey, this is what I've got to do. I graduate. But as far as the level of competition, I don't think. Again, I was arrogant, confident, however you want to say it. In pro baseball, I know this to be true. In college too, you got to have coaches that believe in you.
Yeah.
Right. And there's not always going to be good days. So I remember going out in fall, and I transitioned from playing in the infield my whole life to. Clearly, Brian, you don't have the hands or the feet to play infield. We're going to put you in outfield because you can swing it a little bit. To being a very below average outfielder, to eventually becoming a pretty decent outfielder. I've always felt like that you're comparing yourself a lot. And that's not really a great thing to do, but it's so natural to do. And so you're comparing yourself against JUCO guys who are coming in because they're not sure what you're going to be. You're comparing yourself against guys that are there.
It's so crazy, though, when somebody new comes in, you always put up that wall first, I think. You're always like, you're just watching, like, what is this?
Yeah, what's this guy about, right? And what kind of person he is.
But I think so. By the end of your junior, as you get to a senior, were you confident enough where you're like, hey, I'm the man here. I'll take you under my wing, or were you always kind of?
No. I think it happened, and I was fortunate to where I feel like it happened pretty early for me because I played a lot as a freshman. I think I was,
So you gained that confidence. This is my spot.
This is my spot. There's 7 other ones, and then you can pitch. And so whatever. I'm gonna play left outfield somewhere, and so I think very very early on that happened. But when you first come in there, you don't know where you fit, right? And you don't really know what the coaches think about you. You figure out, hey, you're playing inter squad games. I'm on this team. They're on this team. Does this mean anything?
Oh, you start comparing, like,
I'm hitting
the
in
red.
this spot.
Why does the red team have this guy?
Right? And really, they were mixing them up. They wanted to be competitive games, and I felt like I was successful. But you definitely were. I didn't never feel like overwhelmed by talent. And even in pro baseball, there's a very small percentage of guys that are just different. Yeah. And then even in pro baseball, 85% of the guys who make it to the big leagues who have really good careers are just guys who grinded, stay healthy, and committed to getting better. Yeah. There's a small percentage of guys, your Griffeys, your Barry Bonds, that are just different.
Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah, A-Rod and those guys. But most of the guys, and college baseball is the same way. I didn't go in there and think, oh, this guy's, now you see a couple guys hitting BP, and you're like, oh gosh, this is different. Yeah. But then you'd actually put a live arm, and he's like, he's not squared up balls.
Can't hit anything away. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, he's not squared up balls. And like I could hit the ball, and so it does, you fight that comparison thing. Hey, the thing that makes me think about coming from high school to pro baseball, that transition, like caring about winning. How was that? Like, did you recognize it, number one? And number two, when were you like, oh, nobody cares if we win or lose?
Yeah.
It's only about how you did.
That first year, the games were so weird because everybody was just doing their own thing. Because everybody came, like, literally, you got 25 guys on the team. They've got 25 different routines. They're coming from big-time D1 schools. They're coming from NAIA schools. They're coming from JUCOs. They're coming from high school. They're coming from the Dominican.
Yeah.
Everybody did something different to prepare themselves.
Yeah. Did they try to mess with that routine? Did they try to mess
No,
with it?
I think they let you do your own thing, and then they tweaked as hey, we should try to do this to make sure you're ready, sort of thing. So nobody really messed with it. They assumed, hey, you got here for a reason, do your thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then let's tweak along the way.
Yeah.
But But as far as winning goes, the fans cared, but on the team, went 2 for 3 today. Had a good day. Threw 6 good innings today, but we lost.
Who
Threw 6 good
cares?
innings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that changed a little bit with some different teams I was on as you kind of get a little higher,
Right.
and I saw some of that, especially at the lowest kind of lower levels. Guys were kind of pulling against your
Oh,
teammates,
very much so. Very much
and
so.
that doesn't get you a
No.
whole lot in life and very far in baseball, and
Yeah, you better.
it just kind of shows who you are as a person, I think, and but you would see guys just like doing their own thing, and not good or bad, just like that's how they had to get ready. If it went well, we won. If we put all things together, but it was really different because you're not. You remember in high school just doing stuff like throwing your hats on inside out.
Yeah, you're doing
just
whatever.
all the
Rally
in
hats.
college.
Yeah, college same way.
But pro
Yeah,
ball
you're trying
is just
to win.
very much like, right, game's over, and then you get to the clubhouse and no like post game speech. We're not going to talk. No, just get in the shower. Like, oh, I gotta get naked again. Oh, but yeah. So every once in a while, a manager would pop out and say just something after the game, like, "Hey, we got to work on this or that." Like legitimately, 99% of the time, game was over. Manager went to his club, his office, talked to the pitching coach and hitting coach because they shared an office, and they would send their reports into the big club in Milwaukee or Boston or wherever it was, and that was it. If you had something to say, you could go talk to them.
Right. But you had to be man enough to go in there and have that conversation.
Yeah, but again,
it was never about winning and losing.
No,
at least
very, very.
Yeah.
I mean, and ultimately, if you prepared and did the right things, you won.
And enough of you did.
Yeah, and enough you did. There was a couple. So there was a couple teams, few teams I was on, and again, it was later. The guys were older.
Yeah.
They were more mature. What made them different was they did want to win.
Yeah,
and they would do the little things to help the team win,
get runners over,
move runners,
take a base when a guy's stealing a base, or take a pitch
when a guy's stealing. But they started to understand, and some of the best pitching staffs I was on holistically, it was guys who we got along,
yeah,
and we cheered for each other.
Yeah,
but in a very competitive way. It's like
in a sincere way.
Yeah. Like 2002 had a pretty good pitching staff. A guy named David Pember was on the staff. One of my best friends still, amazing dude. He got and pitch a good game. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna top that. You went 7 and gave up 2 runs. I'm gonna give up 1 run. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or another guy we got and pitch a good game was like, oof, he set the standard. Because you kind of took it in 5-game chunks because everybody had their turn in the rotation.
Yeah.
And you kind of took it that way. So
was there ever a time you were in pro ball that you thought, I might should have went to college first? Was there ever a time that you thought that
No, I never thought that. I never had I've never had those regrets I look back and like, hey, it would have been fun to play in college.
Right.
It would have been cool. Like,
but as far as your long term,
no, I never.
And when you were in the moment, that never came across your mind. No,
because
19, 20,
I progressed
all the way through.
pretty well. Like,
yeah.
So I went to 17 rookie ball. I went back to rookie ball my second year. I went to low A, high A, got on the 40 man, went to double A.
So you were on track. Yeah.
I was trying, and then that first year in double A, again, that was different. And then I had a bad year, got moved back down to high A, was in high A again, went to double A, had a really good year, went to triple A. And I was still only 23, so I was still young.
Right.
And then that year, it was okay. And then, some others, a couple more years.
Life happens.
So it wasn't. Yeah. So again, I progressed. Like, I was 19 on the 40-man roster.
Yeah.
Or 20 on the 40-man roster. So I was like, man,
that's interesting.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The fans care immensely about winning and losing. I think, or maybe not even a minute. They're
there. They're exciting. If you're there, you're going to pull for the home team.
And as a player, you're doing all you can to win the game.
Right.
But it's not like nobody has hometown pride for the Ogden Raptors or the Beloit Snappers or the Stockton Ports. Like, you care about your teammates. You want to win. You're doing everything you can.
Well, the good guys care about their teammates.
Yeah.
There's a lot that I
think that gets weeded out pretty quick as you get higher, or those guys get punched in the face.
Yeah. Any fights?
Internally, there was a couple internally, and then clearly we fought, and that was the other thing too that was really odd, like fights against the other team, because it was kind of like one guy. It was just like one guy had beef with somebody else,
Right.
and they're popping off or talking shit.
And then you got to kind of back them a little bit.
And then as a pitcher, you kind of get the nod and like, damn, I gotta hit somebody now. Like,
I don't even have nothing to get.
I don't know this guy. I can barely get somebody out. Now I gotta hit him, put more people on base.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so awesome. We'll have one on fights. I think that'd be a fun topic to kind of discuss. Yeah. But the last thing, so a lot of downtime.
Oh yeah. Well, in pro ball for sure, dude.
So much downtime. Yeah, and you're out in Bakersfield, California, or Appleton, Wisconsin, or Rochester, New York. Like you're in these kind of random cities, and so like for us, we would always have a couple like mall days when the team bus would take us to the mall.
Like a field trip.
Like legitimately. Like he'd be like, hey, workout bus at 9, mall bus at 11. Yeah, that sort of thing. Right. And so you just
Paul, you don't have a car.
Well, and again,
we'll come by your house.
Yeah, no. This is on the road.
This will be the short bus.
Yeah. But this is pre-Uber,
right.
Any ride share. So you're just
taxis
you're
in those
just,
towns.
Yeah, no taxis. Nobody was buying a taxi anyway. That was crazy. But yeah, a lot of time just walk around the malls.
See, we didn't have it, dude. I mean, because again, I'm in college. You're going to school. You're going to class. I seriously, I think, except for the exceptional guys, I think the college makes a ton of sense because you don't have like a lot of times. The idle hands is where you get in trouble, right? Yeah. There's a guy that if you didn't have your maturity level or your morals or your standards set, you can get into some real rabbit holes. Whereas college, hey, you still got class, you got tutors, you got people that may or may not have the same goals, but you got a lot of guys that are at least from similar backgrounds, and it was that transition from high school to college was pretty easy with the exception of.
But you're still kind of being told what to do.
Yeah, very much so, bro. That's the reason it's in pro ball, dude. You do whatever
nobody
you
tells
need
you
to
anything.
Do. Yeah,
like hey, be at the field at 3.
Yeah, and you don't.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
and there's nobody to really set that standard. Whereas, hey, you need to be there at 3. Hey, well, and I kind of knew just how I was raised, but there's a lot of guys that didn't know that, hey, be there at 3 means, hey, you need to be there at 2:30. Yeah, 2:30. Yeah, 2:40. And the transition from high school to college, I felt like it was pretty easy back in those days. I feel like now it may be greater because there is such a wide gap in age. Obviously, now in college, you see such a wide gap in age, 18 to 23. But, it's, I still think the trend, with a handful of exceptions, it makes a ton of sense to go to college because now you can go to a JUCO and be gone after the first year.
Yeah. And we've had those conversations like with my own family. With if our son has the ability and my wife is very much on like, hey, let's send him to college. Let's do that.
I just think it's again. There's exceptions to those rules. Bryce Harper graduated early, figured out he was clearly
GED
better.
Yeah,
and graduated high school early for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
And so I do think if you're one of those guys, I think it makes sense. But just because you get drafted high doesn't mean you're really one of those guys. It takes the emotional maturity. Again, the transition from high school to college was.
Well, let me ask you one more thing, and then we'll wrap up. Wood bats. What was that transition like from aluminum, metal, whatever it was?
We had pretty good. Now we did the transition from high school to college. We did go to the drop threes, but there were still the high school bats when I was in high school were ridiculous, dude.
What did you swing in high school?
I was an Easton guy, 34. I think it was 34-29.
Big dog.
And it was like it's the Reflex. I think the Reflex, Easton Reflex. Yeah. And then you go to college where TPX. I didn't like how those were weighted.
It's Louisville, right?
Yeah, Louisville TPX, and so I didn't like how. But the transition there is. But you go play summer ball. Like I played in the Cape 2 years, and so you play with wood. You hit wood in practice. I wasn't really. By the time I was in pro baseball, I'd hit with wood enough where it wasn't. I mean, sweet spot's smaller. You're going to break some stuff.
Yeah.
You don't get as many cheap hits, but it wasn't. Again, it's almost like going to P1, right? You don't go directly from kindergarten to first grade. You have P1, and so when you go to college, it's kind of like P1 compared to what you did. You went right to first grade.
Yeah, just jump right in. Yeah, and I did get to hit a little bit because we still had
national. So how was that? Was it a big deal, or did you hit with wood enough in high school to?
I had wood bat in I just hit all metal. I never had my own bat in high school. Like just borrowed other kids' bats, and
That's crazy.
I remember the Black Magic was floating
big.
around.
Yeah.
I think I used that one. You get the Pro Ball. I was 96. I didn't hit until 2000. And so I went from
4 years of not hitting at all.
I mean, I took some BP.
Did y'all ever take beeps?
We took like pitcher's BP, but that was like once a week. You know, they had us bunting stuff like that. But you know, in high school,
so were you not in the league? The Brewers were in National League. Did you?
Yeah, but you don't hit until AA.
I didn't know that.
When a National League team played a National League team in AA, you hit pitchers hit. When American League played National League or American League, you played DH rules. But the idea there was to develop hitters at a younger age.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, let's see if the pitchers can get to AA first, and then we'll let them hit. So, no, it was crazy seeing because the average pitch speed in high school, 78, 80 is right.
Yeah.
If you saw a guy throwing like mid upper 80s, like, oof, this guy is bringing it.
Yeah.
And then you get to Pro Bowl, and the average fastball is 90, right? 88, 90 miles an hour at the time. I adjusted pretty well. It just kind of becomes the speed.
Yeah.
And you kind of tick it up a little bit and get ready for it. And,
were you a sack bunt guy, or were you getting to swing it very much when you were AA?
So I was a career 200 hitter,
which is pretty good considering.
Struck out a lot.
Were you taking first pitch every?
We were supposed to take first pitch or take till we got a strike with the Brewers, so did that. But it was fun. It was, and the expectations of you as a pitcher hitting was
pretty low.
Pretty low.
Yeah.
It was a really odd thing to pitch against another pitcher.
Okay.
Because there was kind of like I'm gonna throw you fastballs away.
Right. There's a respect there.
Generally. Yeah, and then if we get you 2 strikes, I'm going to try to just pad my stats with a strikeout.
Right.
That was kind of the...
I'm going to throw you fastballs to get you to 2 strikes, and then
I'll
have the ability...
I'll try to throw you fastballs down.
Yeah.
You do the same. It was kind of like a gentleman's agreement sort of thing.
Well, there ever a time? I'm sure there was a time where you're like, dude.
So 2002, we were actually playing a game in Zebulon. We were playing the Mudcats. And so there's a ton of people. Playing at home was kind of a hassle. Like when you come back to Durham or Carolina, it was
because you got to get tickets
for everybody, and everybody's. And again, it was. I appreciated the support. It was fantastic,
and you appreciate it more now. Probably
looking back, like just to see the love and encouragement, really cool. At the time, it was like you're trying to prepare, you're trying to get ready. It goes out of your normal routine. Right. Baseball players are very routine creatures of routine. Face this guy named Jason Young, I think, who made it to the big leagues with the Rockies for a little bit. But he's throwing something pretty hard, like low 90s, like 92, 94.
Yeah.
And I'm fouling the ball off. And I keep looking at the scoreboard. I'm like, I just fouled off 94. Like, come on now. And so it was like a 1-2. I took a pitch. It was like a 1-2 count. And I've probably seen like 6 or 7 pitches. So I'd seen...
he's going to break it off now. Yeah.
And then like on the 7th or 8th pitch, just yaks a hammer in there. And just buckle. I'm bending all over the place. And it's just like a... right down the middle. I'm like, I just kind of look at him. All right, so
good
see
pitch.
you later.
Head
back to the dugout.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we hope you guys have enjoyed this look into kind of what transition looks like from high school to college to pro ball. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We love to hear some comments. Ask some questions. If there's questions, we'll answer them in a more shorter form for you. And then make sure you listen to the pods. We got a lot of them out there. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Out. Go Pack.